Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, and Cleopatra. They are extraordinary people who immensely impacted the course of ancient history. Julius Caesar, a man whose ambition drove him to extend the borders of the Roman Empire to lengths never seen before. Mark Antony, a military genius who tracked down Caesar's assassins and was loyal to him beyond the grave. And Cleopatra, the queen who won Mark's heart for political gain, but also caused his doom. These prominent figures forever affected the path of history. Julius Caesar was a military genius who made his way up in the Roman Empire. After his father's death, he made an effort to side with the country's nobility. His stature was further enhanced when he created a private army and fought the king of Pontus, who declared war on Rome in 74 BC. After that, he went on to serve in many other key government roles, which included consul in 59 BC. Soon after, he created the first triumvirate between himself, Marcus Licinius Crassus, and Pompey. Crassus was a Roman general and politician, and Pompey was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. Pompey provided money while Caesar and Crassus acted as military and government leaders. Not much later, Caesar became governor of Gaul in modern-day France, which allowed him to build a bigger army and conquer lands. In his time as governor, he conquered all of Gaul and part of Britain. Pompey became envious of Caesar's newfound power and prestige, and as such the three had a meeting in which they temporarily patched things up in 56 BC. 3 years later, though, Crassus was killed in battle in Syria, and the triumvirate began to fall apart. Pompey's animosity towards Caesar made a civil war inevitable. Caesar and Pompey fought in a long and bloody civil war, with Pompey on the side of the Senate. By the end of 48 BC, Caesar had defeated all his perceived enemies and spent a brief time in Egypt, where he aligned himself with Cleopatra, the queen. Upon returning to Rome, he declared himself dictator for life. Caesar irreversibly changed the Roman Empire by reforming the Senate so that it was better represented, formed a new calendar, resurrected the cities of Carthage and Corinth, and allowed foreigners to become citizens. On March 15, 44 BC, he was stabbed to death 23 times in the Senate chamber, and an ironic turn of events fell at the statue of Pompey. Supposedly, his last words were, "Et tu, Brute," meaning, "And you, Brutus," expressing Caesar's shock at seeing him, since Brutus was a close friend of his. Truly, Caesar was a man with incredible ambitions and military capacity. Mark Antony was a general and personal assistant under Caesar who helped fight in his civil war and was governor of Syria from 57 BC to 55. When he returned to Rome, he was elected as tribune to represent his people. As the civil war between Caesar and Pompey escalated, he returned to help his mentor defeat his enemies. After Caesar's death in 44 BC, he had to be kind to his assassins while building up his political power, while Octavian was secretly conspiring against him in the Senate. Eventually, he attacked Domitius Brutus, not the senator Brutus who killed Caesar, but the governor of Gaul, because he wanted that position. As a result, he was attacked by Octavian and his troops in 43 BC, and was forced to retreat north. Octavian realized the Senate wasn't on his side, and so he, Antony, and Lepidus made the second triumvirate and ruled Rome in 42 BC. Also, they defeated Caesar's assassins in the Battle of Philippi in October. While Octavian was ruling the west and Lepidus was in Africa, Mark positioned himself in southern Turkey and pursued Queen Cleopatra of Egypt. In 41 BC, Mark was sent east to fight the Parthians, who were in modern-day Iran, and bring order to Egypt. In his fight against the Parthians, he enlisted the assistance of Cleopatra, and they fell in love. In 40 BC, Antony's direct family rebelled against Octavian. Therefore, he returned to make amends. On the way, his wife died, and so to stop the rebellion, he married Octavian's younger sister, Octavia. 4 years later, he went back to Egypt to Cleopatra and wanted to renew their romance, and went public, comparing themselves to Orosius and Isis. In 33 BC, the second triumvirate officially ended and tensions grew between Octavian and Mark Antony. Octavian accused Antony of leaving his wife for Cleopatra and that he was choosing her over Rome. Soon there was a civil war between the two in which Antony and Cleopatra lost. When Antony entered Alexandria, he committed suicide by his own sword. After burying Antony and meeting with Octavian, Cleopatra locked herself in a room with 2 female slaves and committed suicide. The means of her death is uncertain, but many believe she used a poisonous snake called an asp, a symbol of divine royalty. The relationship between the two would inevitably destroy them both and allow Octavian to solidify his dominion. The political void left by Caesar's death and the scandalous relationship between a Roman general and an Egyptian princess was a recipe for political intrigue, and its effects reverberated throughout Egyptian and Roman society for decades to come.